Howdy again, everybody. This is Doc, and welcome to Doc's Racing Digest for January 15th, 2018. Had kind of an interesting week going on. Not a ton of stuff going on as far as the actual races, but a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes and in the racing world. And after all, this is a show put on by a fan for the fans. So let's get right to it and talk a little bit about the Eclipse Awards again that are happening. And there were some winners that actually have already been announced. So let's take a look at who they are. That's right, we did have the media eclipses that were already announced, and of course these winners will be there on January 24th down in Gulfstream in Florida to accept their Eclipse Awards. But like they do in the Oscars and the Emmys, some of the awards are announced ahead of time, and but obviously no less special, and we'll go through and see exactly who was awarded what for the 2018 Eclipse Awards in the media categories. First, we're going to take a look at the feature or commentary, and this goes to Tim Layden of Sports Illustrated, sportsillustrated.com, on a wonderful piece he put together about the call of the 1973 Belmont Stakes that Chick Anderson made. And obviously, if you're a new racing fan out there, or a racing fan that for some reason has not heard this race call, you need to definitely check it out on YouTube or any other means that you can possibly do. Those words, "he is moving like a tremendous machine," will be etched forever in racing lore. And Tim kind of delves a little bit into how a lot of that call really was kind of improvised and, spur of the moment, because really nobody, I think, expected a performance that we saw that day. And obviously there's a reason that performance is really the pinnacle of what all other performances are kind of measured against of a horse on their very, very best day. So congratulations to Tim, phenomenal article, and I encourage everybody to head over to si.com, check it out. Moving on to the news and the enterprise writing, we've got a young and up-and-coming writer for the Blood Horse named Jeremy Ballin, who really is a phenomenal writer and a really good storyteller too. And he won his Eclipse for his coverage of the San Luis Rey fires, and especially the horsemen and what they went through and just everything that seemed to happen in that. It was just such a surreal time for everybody that was involved there, and he really captured it so poignantly and so perfectly in his story about the San Luis Rey fires and the horsemen. And really everybody needs to both check that out and also follow Jeremy on Twitter. He certainly creates some very interesting discussion points, and one that we always like talking about, and we need more of that in the sport. Questioning the norm and questioning why things are, and just kind of opening up the dialogue a little bit. So congratulations, Jeremy, on a well-earned media eclipse there. When you're talking about television categories next, really 3 letters. NBC. They really have kind of monopoly and cornered the market on live racing broadcasting, and they've been expanding every year, which actually is really, really nice to see. And they obviously were the winners yet again for both the live racing program in their coverage of the 2018 Belmont Stakes and Justify's run to a Triple Crown, and in the features category for a feature that did air, I believe, on Derby Day in 2018, again about the San Luis Rey fires, and that Bob Costas had narrated there. So congratulations once again to NBC for yet another media eclipse, and thank you to NBC for making racing a little bit more accessible to the fans, especially on their main network, which is really actually nice to see as well. Next is kind of the audio and multimedia internet category, and this one really is something, again, that everybody needs to go and take a look at. And it's Christy DeBernardis, I hope I'm saying that right, and Patty Wolf of Thoroughbred Daily News for one of their weekend features, and it focused all around Cosmic One. And for those fans of the sport, Cosmic One was the first foal out of the champion mare Zenyatta, and obviously her fan base was clamoring to see how well this guy would run, and he just never really made it as a racehorse on the track. He did try, just never really obviously fulfilled the same promise that his mom had, and so they decided to look for a second career for him, and he was part of, and probably actually featured in the 2018 Retired Racehorse Project and everything that went on there in that wonderful event in Kentucky. And they really followed his transition and how he really got an amazing second career through the RRP. So definitely you want to check that out. Of course, very, very well-deserved Eclipse Award there for Christy and Patty. Moving on to photography, somebody who is now going to be winning her 4th Eclipse Award in this category, and definitely deserving. No person probably more deserving than Barbara Livingston of the Daily Racing Form for her capture of the picture of the Gallant Bob. And what, of course, obviously is so amazing about this picture is you don't see horses savage another horse too often, and she just caught it absolutely perfectly. Where she told me to go was telling Firenze Fire where to go in deep stretch when he realized that he was not going to get past him. So, obviously there's a lot of photos out there, but hers certainly seemed to capture it just perfectly. So, again, congratulations, Barbara Livingston, for another well-earned and well-deserved Eclipse Award. So those are the Media Eclipse Awards. And we do have the one other category that was already announced, and that is the Eclipse Award of Merit, which is sort of like a Lifetime Achievement Award, in racing. It's given to somebody who really has dedicated their life to the game, and this year, obviously, it is no different. And the award winner there is Joe Harper, who is the CEO of the Del Mar Thoroughbred Club, and he was given this award for, obviously, all of the years he has put into both the industry and to Del Mar to make it, kind of the track that it is today. And obviously, he was a big part of them attracting the Breeders' Cup, not only once, but obviously they're going to be going back there in a couple of years. So, everything that he has really contributed to racing, another well-deserved Eclipse Award there. So congratulations, Joe. So those are all of the Eclipse Awards that obviously we know who is going to win. And we did go over in last week's show all of the other categories that we will obviously still have to wait to see who is the actual winner on January 24th when they open those envelopes. And, as we said, we covered last week as well, the 3 groups that basically make up the voting blocks for these awards, and how sometimes it's a little, we lament a little bit that the fans really don't have a say in who gets the Eclipse Awards. However, there is a way that you as a fan can at least make your voice known in who you think you should get the Eclipse Awards. Here's how.
And the winner is...
And the winner is Flintshire.
To announce the winner of the owner for 2016, Juddmonte Farms.
Sure, we all know that the winners have been voted already by the turf writers and broadcasters, but wouldn't it be cool for the fans to have their say? Well, now you can. Sort of. Thoroughfan is holding its own Eclipse Award voting based on the finalists in each category where you, the fan, can go and submit your vote. Just head over to thoroughfan.com and click on the link to head to our survey. Then cast your votes for who you think you should win. If you happen to think it should be another horse, just put it in the comments. Thoroughfan will release our results just before the Eclipse Awards to see how the fans' feelings compared with those who cast the real ballots. So get on over to thoroughfan.com or check us out on Facebook to take the survey and have your voice heard. We may not be able to officially say who the winner is come January 24th, but we can have a lot of fun having our own say.
So, hope everybody does get out there and go ahead and place your votes there on thoroughfan.com, because we are really curious to see how close the fans' thoughts are to the ones that actually do the voting. So, we will be announcing those results probably on next week's show or the week after, depending on exactly when the full results are announced by Thoroughfan. Final thing we're going to talk very quickly about with the Eclipse Awards here is that steeplechase category, and I touched on it a little bit last week, how obviously in selecting the finalists, a lot of the people that are in the voting blocks tend to abstain in this category because they claim they just don't know enough about it or know enough about the horses to really make kind of an educated guess as to who they think they should get the award. And that kind of, I think, annoys obviously a lot of people that do follow steeplechase racing, as well as a certain somebody named Nicole Newest who wrote an article about this for her blog 2 years ago, really imploring those that are responsible for the voting to get more involved in at least understanding about the horses that are at the top level of the steeplechase sport in the U.S. And it's a really fantastic read. I definitely do recommend everybody search it and read it. And, maybe get a little more involved in following the jump racing. There is a whole organization, the National Steeplechase Association, that obviously governs all of the steeplechase racing in the U.S. And some of those meets are a lot of fun to be at. And the races obviously are a little bit different, a little bit slower, but obviously a little bit longer as well. And so I definitely want to check that out. And, of course, the 3 finalists this year, Jury Duty, Optimus Prime, and Zanjabil. We are going to take a look at right now one race, the Lonesome Glory Stakes at Belmont Park, that happens happened last fall, where two of those finalists met. Optimus Prime, coming off his great win in the New York Turf Riders Cup up at Saratoga, and Zanjabil, who obviously was a top-rated steeplechase horse in his own right. And so take a look at the Lonesome Glory. I will tell people there was a horse that did fall in this race over one fence, but both horse and rider were fine. So check out the Lonesome Glory.
They're off in the Lonesome Glory. Clarkham goes out to the lead with Optimus Prime and Zanjabil. The Ross Bryan farm runners are 1, 2, 3 as they go over that first fence. All clearing well. Showcourt is fourth early on, followed by Scudic and Personal Start, and on the inside, Three Kingdoms. Hinterland will be last early on, as Clarkham and Optimus Prime are 1, 2 going into that turn, and they're prompted in third position by Zanjabil, rounding the clubhouse turn. Personal Start is fourth on the outside, and then it's Showcourt down toward the inside. They're being followed by Scudic, Three Kingdoms, and Hinterland is last early in the Lonesome Glory, racing about 10 lengths off of Clarkham, who will lead them into the backstretch under Jack Doyle. The Galway Plate winner, Clarkham, onto the backstretch in the clear by 2 over Optimus Prime. And then comes Zanjabil in third. Personal Start is fourth as they come to the second of 10 fences. They all go over there very well. Showcourt is fifth early on here. Then comes Scudic, followed by Three Kingdoms and Hinterland. So onto this middle backstretch fence. Clarkham up and over there. Optimus Prime second. And then comes Zanjabil in third, followed by Personal Start. And Showcourt is fifth. So here's the final backstretch fence this time around. And all up and over, led by Clarkham, who will take them into the far turn in front by 2 over Optimus Prime. Personal Start has grabbed third on the outside of Zanjabil. Showcourt is next, and then Scudic, Three Kingdoms, and Hinterland is last. So it's been Clarkham all the way so far. Optimus Prime, the New York Turf Riders winner, is running along in second, a length and a half behind. Personal Start is third. Then Zanjabil, who took the Iroquois, fourth at this stage, racing 4.5 lengths off the lead, and just ahead of Showcourt, Scudic on the outside, followed by Three Kingdoms and Hinterland. So they come into the stretch here with Clarkham the leader. Over this fifth fence, Clarkham clears well from Optimus Prime and Personal Start. And then it's Zanjabil. Clarkham's been on top all the way so far as they continue to clear every fence. Personal Start is a length and a half behind now, and up into second, outside of Optimus Prime. Zanjabil is fourth, Scudic is fifth, and then Showcourt, Three Kingdoms, and Hinterland. So on to fence number 7 here, led by Clarkham. Leaps over there in the clear by 2. And then it's Personal Start, who's racing outside of Optimus Prime into the clubhouse turn. Zanjabil continues to race in fourth. Scudic is fifth on the outside. Showcourt is next. Three Kingdoms and Hinterland, last year's runner-up, is at the rear of the field and racing 9 lengths off of Clarkham, who has been on top every step of the way. So on to the backstretch for the final time. Races or jumps number 8, 9, and 10 remain here as they head to the backstretch in the Lonesome Glory. Clarkham from Personal Start. Optimus Prime is next. Scudic on the outside of Zanjabil. And they're followed by Three Kingdoms, Showcourt, and Hinterland. All up and over there. We had a faller there at that fence. Showcourt went down. Showcourt fell over that fence. And Clarkham heads over the next fence in front. Just one remaining here. Personal Start is second. Optimus Prime is third. Zanjabil is fourth. Three Kingdoms fifth at the final fence. Clarkham up and over with the lead by 2.5 lengths now. Then it's Zanjabil, Optimus Prime, Personal Start, Three Kingdoms on the far outside, Hinterland, and Scudic at the rear of the field as they make their way around that far turn. It's a flat race from here. And Clarkham and Jack Doyle continue to lead the way here. And they're on top by just a length as Zanjabil now ranges up alongside in second. And outside of them, making a bid now is Three Kingdoms into third. And they're into the stretch, and now Zanjabil and Three Kingdoms have gone by, front-running Clarcom, and Optimus Prime is taken third on the inside. Hinterland is fifth. Into the final furlong of the Lonesome Glory. And Zanjabil leads Optimus Prime. Finishing well is Hinterland on the far outside. Zanjabil in front, coming down to the wire, and Zanjabil and Jack Kennedy have won the Lonesome Glory. Hinterland.
Welcome back here to Doc's Racing Digest and to another new segment that we are debuting this week called Doc's Desires. And these are basically things that I personally, as a racing fan and a very passionate racing fan, would like to see sort of implemented in the industry to really both, lend a little bit of a credibility and, maybe boost some fan interest. And, what I'm going to talk about briefly as far as my desire for this week is something that I have talked about in the past, but I'm kind of tweaking the name of after getting some feedback on. And a lot of people that are involved in the sport know that obviously the Horse Racing Integrity Act is going to be reintroduced into Congress again this year, probably with even more co-sponsors. And this is obviously calling for a centralized authority to control drug testing, under the auspices of the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency and things like that. And we will spend, more time in future episodes kind of really delving into that and exactly what it means for the sport and what it means for those that are involved in it and things like that. And there's another organization, the WOA, for the acronym, Water, Hay, and Oats Alliance, and there's a lot of people that have signed on and supported this legislation. And one of the real key points of this legislation is that there is no race day medication. None. Zip, zilch, zero. And that also means there is no Lasix race day medication. And obviously this has been a huge sticking point for a lot of people, because there are the two camps, one that truly believe that Lasix is needed just for the health and welfare of the horse, and the others that really feel it's not, and it is more of a performance-enhancing substance. Again, we are going to delve into that debate maybe a little bit more on another episode. What I would like to see, I was initially calling the drug-free daily double, which was obviously if you've got enough of these people in the Water, Hay, Oats Alliance and others that want to run their horses off of Lasix but feel they're at a competitive disadvantage when they do, why not have races written that just don't have Lasix in them? And, all tracks would have to do is put up a daily double. 2 races. The conditions are basically you run Lasix free, and that levels the playing field. Now, there were some concerns on a couple of levels. People talking about, they would probably be claiming races, and you don't want to lose your horse because then somebody's just going to give it Lasix the next start to try to move it up a couple of lengths and stuff like that. I get that. So just make them allowance optional claimers, make them starter handicaps, make them anything that really just prevents that risk of your horse being claimed. Seems like an easy enough thing to solve. The other thing that was brought up, and I actually do agree with this, is why I've sort of tweaked the name, is that if you call it a drug-free daily double, then everybody's going to assume, and you're actually going to hurt the sport by implying that they really are run on drugs for all the other races. Lasix is a drug, so technically all horses are run on Lasix and are run on drugs. But obviously, the public doesn't have enough of a grasp of what's going on to understand the perception aspects of it and things like that, and to really be shown what we're talking about in those situations. So instead of calling it the drug-free daily double, let's call it the Lasix Free Late Double. So let's see if any racing jurisdiction out there really wants to go to the forefront, and let's see some of these Water, Hay, Oats Alliance people that are clamoring for drug-free racing and for want to race their horses off Lasix, but claim that they can't do it because they're at their disadvantage when other people put their horses on Lasix. Let's see some of these races be written that are Lasix free. And, maybe put a bonus pool into the double pool, really attract the handicappers into it, attract the fans, show the world that we can race without Lasix. And this is the easiest way to just start doing it and really kind of building the momentum for this. Is the legislation going to have to probably pass? Yes. God only knows when the government's going to reopen, and it's obviously not exactly going to be on their top priority list of things to get done when they do finally reopen and start working. So let's be proactive in this industry for once. Let's get out there and let's see a racing jurisdiction start carding some of these Lasix-free races and just call it the Lasix-free Late Double. That is Doc's desire for this week. All right, the Pegasus now under 2 weeks away down at Gulfstream, January 26th, and we did focus a lot on the World Cup last week. No real major developments there, although there still is one starting spot open, and Mackenzie right now on the fence, according to Bob Baffert. We really don't know if he's going to come. Latest indication sounds like he's going to stay in California and skip this one and prepare more for something like the big cap out there. So be very interesting to see if he does eventually decide to come over or not, but right now does not look like it, so that does still leave one stall spot open for the Pegasus World Cup. And of course, this year they did introduce the Pegasus World Cup Turf, which is a $7 million event for turf horses. And some people were wondering exactly what the field is shaping up to look like, who's potentially going to run, and I was able to track some of that information down thanks to the wonderful website horseracing.nation.com. So let's go ahead and take a look at the prospective field as it stands right now for the Pegasus World Cup Turf. And so as you can see, in no real particular order, Pavel, who is very kind of an interesting potential entrant here, as he has been mostly a dirt horse last year, did run in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Channel Maker, certainly a very, very good horse from the Bill Mott barn. Magic Wand, a great filly coming over for Aidan O'Brien. Always got to respect Aidan O'Brien with anything that he brings over. Delta Prince, Jimmy Jerkins. Yoshida, the other Mott horse, Japanese bred, who really has excelled both on dirt and turf, and appears to be getting better as he gets older. So it'll really be interesting to see how he does here, but certainly definitely one you can't leave out. Next shares, obviously the kind of rags to riches, or the really feel-good story here, the one who obviously has his whole life taken care of by old friends after winning that special stakes race out at Kentucky Downs, and just winning his last race out at Santa Anita. So certainly there'll be a lot of people rooting for him. Bricks and mortar, of course, Chad Brown. You can never count Chad Brown out pretty much in anything. And the Japanese star, Aeroleaf, another filly coming over, and be very interesting to see how she does over here in this race. And you've also got, of course, Catapult rounding out at least the prospective field right now, John Sadler. So really, it looks like it is going to be a fairly international field here, going for the Pegasus World Cup Turf, which really was the idea behind it. I'm still not sure if the timing works to really get the top grass horses running in it, but it'll be interesting to see how it does going forward. So that is kind of your recap of what's going on in the Pegasus World Cup domain. And now we are going to shift gears a little bit and look back to both the Derby and the Oaks Trail. So, nothing really major going on in the road to the Kentucky Derby this week. So we are going to take a shift a little bit and start looking at some of the fillies that will hopefully be running for the Lillies on Kentucky Oaks Day, the day before the Derby. And we really haven't had any major prep races per se, with the exception of one in 2019 for the Kentucky Oaks just yet. So we are going to focus on the West Coast starters, and we are going to take a look at two races that did have points implications for the Kentucky Oaks. One that happened in December down at Los Alamitos, and one that just recently happened at Santa Anita. Take a look.
They're all in line. And they're off in the Starlet, and it was a perfect start. Sold It is showing speed this afternoon, and Mother right there to her inside. They're followed by Anaya Alrab, chasing yesterday, is caught about 4 wide with 1 lap to go. Oxy Lady is second last in the early run, and Vibrance will save ground around the first turn. She's last of the 6 as they make their way through the opening quarter mile. Looks like they're going relatively easy as Mother now inherits the lead for Florent Giroux, and she didn't have to work hard to get there. Mother in front about a half a length. Sold It between fillies, and Anaya Alrab is moving up on the outside. The opening quarter was 23-1, and these three are now almost right across the track. Favorite chasing yesterday is in the clear 4th, and less than 3 lengths off the lead. Vibrance moving up down from the inside, and Oxy Lady last of the 6, but only 5 lengths from top to bottom as Mother leads the Starlet field up the backstretch. Mother in front, lets it out a notch as they go to the half-mile pole, and she's in front by almost a length right now and went 47 seconds flat for that opening half-mile. Sold It is trying to stay with the pace setter better as they move to the far turn. Vibrance riding the rails, almost a joint third. Anaya Allrob still right there and chasing yesterday. No choice but to go wide. She is 4 wide, trying to close in on the top pair as they come to the top of the stretch, and the top 4 line up as they straighten away. Mother cuts the corner. Sold It trying to press on by Mother, and now chasing yesterday is hitting her best stride, and she's got clear sailing down the stand side. Anaya Allrob in with a huge upset chance. Mother all out. Anaya Allrob between fillies. Chasing yesterday the stand side. Any one of these three. Chasing yesterday Anaya Allrob. These two going on. Chasing yesterday, maybe a nose in front. Chasing yesterday wins the Starlet.
They're in the gate. And they're off. Tomlin breaks out very quickly, opens up a length and a half. Here's Mother coming through on the inside of Sold It. Just behind them, Bella Fina's close up and now moving up one from the rail, and that leaves Reflect at the back of the pack. Onto the main track, and Mother will establish the pace, racing a bit off the rail. And her main rival, Bella Fina, is a half length back in second. Then Sold It 3 wide in third, Reflect outside of her, and Tomlin is now at the back of a very compact group. Mother, Bella Fina on the outside, and Mother matching strides toward the 3/8 pole. Sold It is a length back in third. Reflect 4 wide, 2.5 lengths off the pace. Tomlin is at the back. It's Bella Fina narrowly in front. Mother now a neck behind. Asks for a bit more as Bella Fina widens now 3/4 of a length. And Bella Fina firing a big shot. Opens up a length on Mother. Now it's 2. Tomlin is in third. They're heading to the 8th pole. She's heading to the 8th pole. Bella Fina is all by herself. An extremely classy display from Bella Fina, who just absolutely overwhelmed the competition. Bella Fina strolls in the Santa Ynez, won by about 9. Mother.
So obviously some pretty impressive performances, both by Chasing Yesterday, who obviously is getting a lot of attention because she is American Pharoah's half-sister, and Bella Fina, who has just been absolutely dominating on the West Coast, both in the 2-year-old races and now moving on to the 3-year-old races. So, not a lot of points-worthy prep races that have been run yet so far for the Oaks, but we will take a look at the current leaderboard, and the point system works just the same as the Oaks as it does for the Derby. So let's take a look and see who is on the leaderboard in the top 10 spots. And obviously, number 1, Jaywalk, obviously off her impressive win, proving she's the real deal in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Restless Rider coming in second, 22 points. Bella Fina, again, 22 points as well. Chasing Yesterday, Serengeti Empress, Positive Spirit, Leora, Vibrance, Mother, and Reflect, and those round out the top 10. Obviously going to be a lot more action in the coming months as far as sorting these fillies out on the road to the Kentucky Oaks. So we will be right back after this brief message here on Doc's Racing Digest.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Yes, it's the regulatory report where we here at Doc's Racing Digest keep an eye on what's going on in the regulatory world and the commission world in thoroughbred racing. And so for this week, we've only got That's right, we are giving a thumbs up not to a commission per se, but a commissioner. And Rory Gorey of the Arizona Racing Commission, and it all surrounds a very interesting story that was reported on both a lot of the horse racing websites, Pollock Report, DRF, and of course azcentral.com, and it centered mainly around Turf Paradise and their request to have obviously their racing license renewed. And Mr. Gorey actually just got up and left the meeting, thus not allowing them to have a quorum to actually even vote on the license renewal. And the Arizona Racing Commission should actually have 5 members to it. There currently are only 3. 2 of those seats have gone unfilled for quite some time. And obviously if you remove one of those 3 people, you do not have a quorum anymore, so the vote cannot actually be happened. So why did it happen? Well, it was basically because, in Mr. Gorey's mind, a lot of the safety concerns at the track regarding things like fire extinguishers and even, safety inside the buildings and things like that were not being addressed properly, and he felt that unless there was some proof that these issues were going to be addressed, he did not feel that they should have a license for racing. And I'm not going to exactly repeat what he stated on the record there, but you certainly can check it out at azcentral.com. And basically he was stating, and I happen to 100% agree with him, and I give him a lot of kudos for standing up and saying what he did, was that if the commission does not, and the track does not really care about the safety of its fans, its horses, and its horsemen, they shouldn't be allowed to race. And really, that has been something that I think a lot of us have wanted commissioners and commissions to really come up and state on the record. And, again, a lot of props to Mr. Gorey. We'll be following this closely to see what exactly happens out there with Turf Paradise and their racing license, but hopefully that's a little bit of a wake-up call. And, we'll not just be bogged down now in the normal bureaucratic process and he'll be tossed off and, somebody else will come on that'll just be a yes man or whatever for the commission, because, again, we don't want to see that. So, big thumbs up to Rory Gorey of the Arizona Racing Commission, and hopefully he'll actually get some things to be done out there in Arizona. So, as we said, it was kind of a light week as far as actual racing goes, but there was one race at Laurel called the Native Dancer, and it was named for a horse that came out of Maryland, probably the most famous racehorse to come out of Maryland, and he was nicknamed the Gray Ghost of Sagamore. So let's take a little bit more of a deeper look into the life and racing times of the Gray Ghost.
This weekend at Laurel Racecourse is a stakes race fittingly named for perhaps one of the most famous horses ever to come from the state of Maryland. Nicknamed the Gray Ghost, Native Dancer was an almost instant media sensation, not only for his dashing looks, but also for his tremendous record on the racetrack, one that saw him be a head away from a Triple Crown. Sired by Polynesian and out of the Discovery mare Geisha, Native Dancer was foaled in 1950 at the famous Sagamore Farm owned by Alfred G. Vanderbilt. Owned by Vanderbilt and trained by William Winfrey, this handsome gray colt made his mark almost instantly on the racetrack, completing an undefeated season with 7 of those 9 wins coming in stakes races such as the prestigious Hopeful Stakes, Youthful Stakes, Saratoga Special, and Flash. He was a lock for 2-year-old of the year and was even voted Horse of the Year in 2 of the 3 voting blocks who decided the awards then, with only the Daily Racing Forum giving the honors to 1 count. More importantly, he created national buzz in the racing and media world as he looked to be the next big superstar in the Triple Crown Series the following year. In the lead-up to that 1953 Derby, Native Dancer did not disappoint, continuing his unbeaten streak and winning such important prep races as the Gotham and the Wood Memorial. He walked into that starting gate the heavy favorite on that first Saturday in May, when, well, the crowd of 100,000 was just a touch different than the crowd we see at today's derbies. A dark star casted a shadow on this sunny Derby day, however, as Dark Star just held on by a head after Native Dancer encountered all sorts of traffic trouble in the first turn, and had a ride that one disgruntled member of the press said took him everywhere on that track but the ladies' room. Disappointed with the loss, but not discouraged, his connections pointed him for the second jewel of the Triple Crown, the Preakness. Made an even heavier favorite in his home state, the Grey Ghost of Sagamore did not disappoint his adoring fans this time, gamely hanging on in the stretch to win the Preakness over a hard-closing Jamie Kay. The pride of his home state returned to the roar of the crowd after making amends for his Derby loss, and headed on to the test of the champion on a cold and wet day in New York. There he again took part in a stretch-long battle with his Preakness foe, and again prevailed by about the same margin. In addition to his claiming 2/3 of the Triple Crown, his 3-year-old season included wins in such races as the Withers, the Dwyer, the Arlington Classic, as you can see here, and the prestigious Travers Stakes, as seen here. While obviously being Maryland's famous son, he was perhaps no more loved anywhere in the racing world than up at Saratoga, where he'd raced many times and became the darling of the fans and the media. The media sure did love this great, good-looking colt, and many considered him to be the real first thoroughbred TV star, with TV Guide calling him an icon of his era, and even Time magazine putting him on the cover of their May 31st issue. He easily won both Horse of the Year and 3-Year-Old of the Year honors in 1953 after that stellar season, but his sights were set on something much greater in 1954. After winning 3 races to begin the 1954 season, including the prestigious Metropolitan Handicap, he was getting ready to ship over to France in preparation to take on the best of Europe in the Prix d'Arc de Triomphe. Then a nagging foot injury forced his early retirement before being able to make that trip. As a stallion, he has been considered to be one of the great ones, siring many great stakes runners and even being a top sire of sires and top broodmare sire. Some of his famous progeny include Natalma, who was the dam of Northern Dancer, Kauai King, who won the 1966 Derby and Preakness, and perhaps one of his most famous sons was Reza Native, who sired the likes of Alidar, Majestic Prince, and Mr. Prospector. Reza Native was the sire of Exclusive Native, who sired Triple Crown winner Affirmed and one of only 3 fillies to ever win the Derby, Genuine Risk. So while the Grey Ghost may not have gotten his own Derby, he's certainly made up for it in future generations. Native Dancer was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1963, and still today is considered one of the best of all time. In the Blood Horses ranking of the top thoroughbreds of the 20th century, he comes in 7th, and in the Associated Press's listing of the same horses, he is all the way up and tied for 3rd with the Amazing Citation, coming in behind only the true immortals of the sport, Man o' War and Secretariat. Native Dancer died in 1967 after having surgery to remove a mass on the wall of his small intestine. He is buried at the famous farm in Maryland started by Mr. Vanderbilt all those years ago, and that farm is still producing great runners to this day.
So, hope you enjoyed that little, trip down memory lane, looking at one of the greats of the game, both for what he did on the track, think about it, just a head away from a Triple Crown and a head away from having an undefeated career. Would have been really amazing to see, obviously what he would have been able to do if he did go over and contest the Arc. Nowadays, Royal Ascot is the meet that everybody, at least on the U.S. side, seems to try to target with some of their horses, and obviously has garnered a little more interest here on this side of the pond, as they say. But obviously the Arc is still the Arc, and that's one of the big ones that everybody wants to win, and who knows how he would have done on the grass over there. It's kind of unfortunate we never got to find out. So that is just about going to do it on the digest for this week. But before we go, we did want to mention one amazing experience that a passionate fan of the game is going to get to enjoy. The NTRA did just announce the winner of the Justify and I selfie contest. And this basically was a contest where all you had to do was submit a selfie of you with Justify, the 2018 Triple Crown winner, in any way, shape, or form, somehow in the picture, in the background with you. And the winner this year was a great shot taken on the monsoon that was Kentucky Derby Day, as you are seeing right now, and it was taken by Matthew Phillips and his pal there, Tonya Johnson, snapping their smiling faces. Obviously, the rain could not damper the excitement there, with Justify walking back to the barn after his muddy, or should I say sloppy, Derby triumph. So congratulations to Matthew and Tonya. They are going to enjoy an all-expense-paid trip down to the Eclipse Awards, enjoy the ceremony, the backstage, get to mingle with everybody, truly, just hobnob with a lot of the greats of the game, and that's really what fans really enjoy, and really in no other sport can you get as close to the major stars and the major participants in the game than you can in racing, and it's one of the things that makes racing so great. So congratulations to Matt. The 24th, he announced, was his 40th birthday. Can't think of a better 40th birthday present than that. So hopefully he will enjoy his time down there and, just continue to promote the sport for us. That's all we ask from our fans. So that is going to wrap things up for the digest this week. We'll be back next week with everything and anything that is involved in racing and fandom. This is Doc, and as always, in the photo finishes of life, may you always come out on the right side of the bob. We'll see you next week, right here on the digest.